Hello, GlossGenius community. Welcome. My name is Danny Berkowitz. I am the community manager at GlossGenius, and I am so excited and really honored to be hosting tonight's conversation around giving your best to clients while also putting yourself first and managing your mental health, which is a subject and a topic that we are very passionate about here at GlossGenius. It is my absolute pleasure. Yeah, I see those heart eye emojis. Keep it coming. It is my pleasure to introduce to you tonight's panelists. We have Kendall Whitley, Barbette Edwards, and Cassandra Carrillo, who are coming from all around the country. I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second. But what I really feel grateful for tonight is the sense of community that I see coming from each of them in their own respective networks, and also the ways that they lead our community here at GlossGenius as well. Kendall, Cass, and Barbette, I'd love for you to take a second just to introduce yourselves, tell us where you are in the world and what you do. Let's start with Kendall.
Hello, I am based in Pensacola, Florida, which is like the whitest sand in the world. It's beautiful. Right now, I'm like at the beach every week. I am an independent hairstylist. I've been independent for 3 years and with GlossGenius for 3 years, using them. Right now, I am in the early stages of planning my own studio salon space. So I'm about to go fully on my own. So
Fabulous. And your business is Mindfunk Creative, correct?
On Instagram, yep. Mindfunk.creative.
Excellent. We'll make sure to add those links at the end as well so people can stay in touch. Thanks, Kendall. Barbette, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to us.
All righty. Hi, I am Barbette Edwards, and I am from Tacoma, Washington. I am at Studio BE on Instagram, so feel free to follow me. I am a seasoned hairdresser of 37 years, so I have done a lot of different things, but currently I am an independent contractor, have been for the last almost 30 years. I've been doing hair for about 37 years. On the other end, I have about 1 to 2 more years before I retire, and then I'll be going into salon development and coaching. So that's what I do now as well. So I have an independent studio on my own here at my home, and I've worked with Sola and have my own salon. And so I'm just really looking forward to doing a lot more with GlossGenius as well. So thank you, Danny.
Absolutely. We're so honored that you are such a seasoned professional as well as someone who's really relatable at the same time. And some of you may recognize Barbette from a few roundtables ago where she joined us to talk about best advice in terms of finance management with your salon. So Barbette, thanks for continuing to be a wealth of knowledge for all of us. Last but not least, Cass, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Please share where you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Cassandra, but everyone calls me Cass. I am a nail technician or nail artist in Hanford, California. So I feel like when everyone hears California, they think of like Hollywood, but I'm in a farm town and there's a lot of cows. So that's where I am. I have been doing nails for 5 years now. I am an independent contractor, so I work for myself also, and I do have a salon, and it's a Blue Frontal salon, and then a Sweet salon as well. But yeah, I'm just very excited to be here. I specialize in natural nails only, so I don't do acrylic, and my other passion is just really helping others in the industry really find their own footing, because I feel like a lot of times in our industry, people aren't so willing to help. So I'm so thankful to be a part of Gloss, where we can all uplift and help each other. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more of these.
Could you share some early signs of when you need to make that change? Okay, I can start with an easier question. I threw you a curve. Well, let's go back. We've established that we're human beings, but I think something else that's kind of the big elephant in the room is that you are all artists, and the potential that you have all of the power in your hands and make that happen and make someone's day or ruin someone's day, or can really affect a life cycle change. And so what are the times that you have felt like, or let me rephrase this, we are artists together. And when we have someone in our chair, there's a lot of pressure to be said, to be had when you're, in charge of someone's major life change. Have you ever had to have a conversation with one of your clients, when they threw you a curveball, or has anyone ever come into your chair and made an appointment harder because they're unhappy? Or how do you manage your feelings around that? Because that's putting compassion towards yourself first, is knowing that you were doing the best that you can.
I had a client the other day that asked me, I'm hoping I didn't look crazy when I came to her appointment, but she said, is there a day that you don't ever, this is a client of 30 years, mind you. Is there a day that you just don't feel like coming to work? And I said, there are days. Yes, there are days that I don't want to come to work. But the first thing I do is I take a moment for myself and I pray and I ask God to help me make somebody else's day better. And so that is my first thing that I do every day. And to answer her question, I said, I just remember that you chose me. And everyone that comes into my space has chosen me. So it's my obligation, my duty to make their day better. And so there's days that I don't feel like it. And there's days that people come into my space and they might mess up the atmosphere in my studio, but it's really my job to turn that around. And so I make it a great environment for them. And it starts at the door. But it starts really with what my energy is before they even get there. Did I answer the question right? I'm not sure if I answered the question.
You did. I'm actually going to pivot because I think what you mentioned sparked a new thought. I'd love to get into the inner workings of how you prepare before, during, and after your appointments. Because regardless if it's a, 30, 60, 90-minute appointment to, a full-on, several hour service, how do you prepare yourself mentally to serve your clients best while protecting your mental health before, during, and after your appointments?
For me personally, I always kind of, like Barbette said, I always start the day with intentions in mind. So I always set my intentions for the day. If I wake up in a bad mood, I just kind of will take a moment, do like a feelings check-in with myself, and kind of just let the negative energy melt away, because I never want to give that to a client. And like you said, it starts right when the client walks in the door, even before. So I just really make sure to honor my own feelings, boundaries, kind of accept them in the moment. Like if I'm feeling upset, I'm like, okay, Cass, we're not having a great morning. That's okay. We're going to let it go. We're not going to let the whole day be ruined by this. And moving forward, we're going to start fresh. So to me, it's just really having that self-check-in, accepting the feelings. I'm feeling the feelings. Sometimes when we push them to the side, it doesn't do us any good. And then during the appointments with clients, I know that there can be conversational topics or maybe things that you don't agree on as a client and your service provider. And I feel like it can be tricky sometimes to learn how to maneuver those conversations or have those conversations and like pivot. So for myself, when I am with like a client that does this, I just really set my boundary and I say like, hey, Cassie, like I really don't feel comfortable touching on the subject. I would hate for us to sour our mood. So can we talk about something else that we maybe see more to eye on? So really setting those boundaries within the conversation and doing it in a way that's polite, that's not abrasive or anything like that. And then let's say for whatever reason, I do have a client and maybe they were a little aggressive towards me and I was trying my very best to not be so aggressive when they leave. I just kind of, again, ground myself. I do breathing exercises. I am, again, mindful and I just kind of let it go. I give them the benefit of the doubt and I just tell myself, maybe they were having a bad day. I was of service to them because maybe they got some of that energy out. I did my part. I hope I made their day better. And I just kind of let it go so that I can kind of refresh and clean my slate for the client, because we do see so many people in a day sometimes and we get so much energy from people, if you guys believe in that. So I think it's really important to kind of learn how to have that check-in with yourself and then still maintain those boundaries with clients so that the day goes smoothly. And I mean, sometimes days aren't going to go smooth and that's okay. But as long as we make an effort, I think that's what's important.
So well said.
I love that. That's basically what I was going to speak to, is just having like that ritual in our space. And I think the three of us too are also able to do that because we're in private spaces. But even if it's something that you can do in your car, like I have the same playlist that I listen to every morning, just things that set me up. I like to turn my infrared lamp on when I get in and sit underneath it. And that's where I do my meditation. Just having that, because we are like going through the motions of our day, sometimes that can kind of get repetitive and like just muscle memory kind of thing. So to have those moments where we also build in, okay, I'm going to check in with myself here. I'm going to take a deep breath here. I'm going to stretch in between these clients, padding your time for that too, because we can't afford to pad our time. You know, like if I put 15 minutes in between people, well, I might be losing an hour from my day, but I'm going to be able to serve these people a lot better and in a way that also respects me. So I think those like ritualistic things are really, really important. And breathing techniques too, like Cass was saying, like that's the biggest thing. I used to shake so bad when I first started, and that was what got me through that. And then also now, like with the stress of running a business too, that's what gets you through that. So staying present. Yeah.
I've seen each of you share this with your community before, is like, here's what I'm doing to start my day. Cass, I know you love your chai lattes, iced chai lattes in the morning. Kendall, you've got your infrared lamp. You know, we've all got our rituals. And I think that was a really important word that we shared there. Barbette, I'd love to hear from you, especially how your before, during, and after has changed throughout the years too.
I will start my day with prayer, and I just ask God to help me make somebody's day better, just richer and better. The before, that's the before. The during is really listening, and I've kind of developed a really good art for listening, because sometimes I would talk too much in my earlier years, probably, but I'm really trying to listen. And then I'm able to regurgitate back to the client what we talked about for my after. So my during is really listening and paying attention to what they're saying, and really being cognizant of not using I, which I probably did more in my younger years with, oh yeah, I did this too, I did that too, but I'm really working on listening to what they're doing. And so that's the during. And then the after is the follow-up, the closeout, the follow-up. Also in the during, usually they're conditioning, I give them a moment and I step away, and I have really good music playing. I have candles and the smells and the lighting, and I give them moments to themselves so they can just debrief for a moment. It's more of a spa-like atmosphere. So that's the during. And then the after is the closeout, and really making sure that they leave with a good feeling, and maybe a recap of what we talked about and what maybe I'm going to send to them or do for them based on our conversation. Follow up, the after is usually a text saying, I hope you enjoyed your visit, and here's the link that I said I would share with you, or here's some more information about what we talked about, or here's some information. But because it's usually something that they are dealing with, and maybe I have some information about. So that's my before, during, and after, just making sure I'm engaging.
It sounds to me like it's a mental health checklist. Like you're running through your inventory list, both for yourself and to make sure you've got all of your equipment, solutions, materials you need to be successful in that appointment. I think we touched on this earlier, but when a client throws a curveball, let's say they're late or they don't show up, how do you handle that? How do you stay grounded when you've done all this to prepare and perhaps it is not the most ideal appointment? How do you stay grounded so that you can continue your day, have self-compassion, but also serve the next client?
I definitely think it's something that starts with yourself. You have to, in my opinion, you have to be fully comfortable with yourself and know your boundaries in order to enforce them. So as an example, like for me, I would get really scared about what people would say about me if I enforced my boundaries, because I do have pretty strict like rules for things like that. It didn't work for me until I got comfortable with myself and just being very sure that I was worth those boundaries that I was setting and those policies, and that my time was worth being honored by others. And I feel like to do that, you have to do a lot of self-work, and everyone's self-work to get there is very different. So I don't think I can speak on like what self-work you have to do get there, because again, it could be different for everyone. But as an example, if Sally were to come in late and she knows my policy is if you are more than 10 minutes late, then you're canceled. In past situations, I always handle it with respect. I always, again, kind of take a deep breath, make sure that I'm grounded and that I'm not going to overreact or say something that I don't mean or that can come off rude. And I just say like, hey, Sally, it's now 10 minutes past your appointment time per my policy. This is it. I know that it sucks and I'm sorry. I wouldn't want to pay for an appointment that either. However, these are my policies. I'm enforcing them, and that's kind of it. I feel like you can't really say anything else. I think you just have to be very straightforward and kind and professional, because people are so quick, unfortunately, to take that little bit of leniency and run with it. And then in my situation, if someone does it more than 2 times, I just let them know like, hey, like we've already done this 2 times. This is your 3rd time. If you're going to continue to do this, we're just not going to be a good fit. You know, you're not honoring my time or my other client's time because X, Y, and Z. So we just won't be a good fit. But again, I think it's just really being kind to yourself, having that confidence in your client and setting those and enforcing those boundaries, and just the delivery. You just have to do it nicely. So that's how I handle it. Up to this point, it's been successful. Everyone knows that I mean business, but that I am kind and not to mess with my rules because then they won't come back. So that's how I handle that.
Mic drop. No, I think the most important thing I got from that was knowing your self-worth. And anybody who has done the self-work and who may or may not be in any therapy of any kind knows that that is probably the hardest but most important step, and really the precedent that will be set for later times. So thank you for sharing that. If I was your client, I would be showing up 10 minutes early because I know. Thank you for sharing that, Cassandra. Barbette, Kendall?
Okay, so I have because I have a clientele that I've had for many, many years. And so I take them pretty individually. I do have a policy. GlossGenius, again, makes it pretty easy to have those policies in place. And having it in writing really helps, because when it's in writing, people see it and then they do honor it. As long as because I've learned to honor my own time as well. So there may be a time that I might be running late, and that same client who's late may have had to wait for me for a few minutes. So I do take them very individually. If it does become consistent, then we have a chat, of course. But the main thing that most clients take away from it is that it is a mutual respect. And typically what I say, because I book so far in advance, and if I have to cancel somebody because they're late and I don't want it to run into my next one, I do build a little extra time in for traffic or whatever. But what I say is, usually I say, you were 20 minutes late, so that might cut into some of your conditioning time, or maybe we need to trim you next time. Today we're just going to style, or I will say what I can do, because I don't know really what has gone on with that person. And because I have built such a relationship with them over the course of these 30 years plus, so I want to know what's going on with them. So, it is a little bit different towards the end of your career than it is at the beginning of your career. So I don't want to say I would do that in the very beginning of my career, maybe when I'm trying to establish more boundaries, but when your relationships become deeper, there's a little bit more grace probably on my end.
I'm going to follow that by saying have a little bit more grace, but I'm also trying to enforce, I think deposits are going to be really helpful for me because of the upfront investment, because I do kind of do case by case. So basically the way that I have that in my verbiage is I have all my policies listed out, and I also state that I uphold them as well. So basically, if I'm running behind, which now I have my times down pretty well, and I really try to avoid doing that. But sometimes people will try to push your boundaries in the chair, like, oh, can we add this today? And, and then that's going to affect something. So having a script is really helpful for myself. I have to have that copy and paste for something. and for somebody. And, if like email or like text communication kind of thing, which I'm like primarily email, but having that script, I have, just check out this policy in there. I have a link to my policy forms. I also include that form in the confirmation text that I send to people. So hopefully people are signing it every single time that they're confirming their appointment. But at least it's there so I can say that it was included, ahead of time. Communicating it, I think, is just the biggest thing. So communicate it as much as possible, as clearly as possible, and also as fairly as possible. So if like personally, I don't book that far in advance because of health reasons and stuff like that. I don't know where I'm going to be maybe in 3 months sometimes. So that's as far out as I book because I don't want to have to reevaluate and change people around. I try to minimize that. And my clients also appreciate that. So I think it's just knowing who you're speaking to and knowing what works for you, but then upholding it, whatever it looks like for you.
Excellent advice, sage advice. Now, we've talked a little bit about GlossGenius as a tool to enforce, create, and establish those boundaries, whether you're at the beginning, middle, or maybe towards the end of your career behind the chair. Let's talk about those tools, because I think for those who are listening, it may be helpful to understand tactically how you manage that. So would someone like to share how they use GlossGenius to keep their mental health in check, whether it's knowing your calendar, knowing your appointments, enforcing the client ban, or the future of deposits? I know we haven't gotten there yet, but that was totally rooted in, hey, our professionals deserve better. They deserve to have that in place so that they can have peace of mind and do their job. So does anybody want to talk about specifically how they use GlossGenius? I'd love to hear from all of you, but no pressure.
I have a list of VIP clients. I don't tell everybody on my email text or my text message marketing or my email marketing that, I don't list them out. I don't call them by name because I want everybody to feel like a VIP. But there is a specific list of people that book either every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks, or every 8 weeks that I will give preferential treatment to. And I will book those people out for 6 months. And those are the people that I will do a special campaign for in the email or the text message marketing to say, I am opening my books. If there's any changes, please let me know. But I am going to book you from January to June. And then I usually will have my vacation times in. And that way, if I do change something, then I know who I need to change. And then I can actually figure out what my dollars look like too, way in advance. So I use that email and text message marketing for my VIPs to schedule in advance. That really helps me. And then I also I use the GlossGenius for their birthday things. I try to remind them to make sure they go in their profile and put their birth date in there. And that way GlossGenius will send them a birthday message. Also in my birthday message, it will say, I forgot where it is exactly in the GlossGenius, but during, in the first 2 weeks of their birthday month, if they schedule an appointment, then they get a complimentary steamed treatment or hot oil treatment or some type of conditioning treatment if they schedule around their birthday.
Cass, I saw your face light up.
I also use the text message thing. It makes my life so easy. I don't have to tell anybody like, hey, did you book yet? I just kind of send out one text message. I only book out 1 month in advance because I don't know what my life is going to look like. And I want to allow myself that flexibility in case I cancel someone, then I can rebook them. So in the text message, I can make that very clear, like, hey, everyone, booking for the month of June opens today at 8 p.m. Please only book for the month of June. So I love it because I can clearly communicate and everyone gets it. And I don't have to text everyone or like verbally have these conversations. And then it has the link. So I love the text message marketing. You gave me a good idea. I'm like, why don't I use that birthday feature? So I'm going to start using that birthday feature. Thanks for inspiring me. And then another thing that I love about Gloss is just the calendar. I love that you can see it on like on a day basis, a week basis, or a month. And for me, I'm kind of forgetful. So I use it to plan my actual work day, kind of see what that looks like, and then my personal appointments too. So I love those features. So yeah, I'm like, oh, cool. I also use the marketing. And like I said, I was so inspired today to start using the birthday feature. Like, why don't I use that? I don't know, but I am going to now. So thanks for sharing that.
We're stronger together.
Yes, all of those things. But I think the simplest but most impactful thing that GlossGenius helps me with is booking appointments, people booking their own appointments, and also being able to see like their history and upcoming appointments, I guess. So they have all that info. So even if somebody like loses the link or, would rather talk to me, because I still have some people that want to do that. Like I said, I have my script, I copy and paste. This is where you go to do that every time, no matter what. Like that is my hard boundary. I absolutely will not manually put somebody on my schedule, because if it happens in like a text communication, I'll forget to put it on my schedule. It won't make it there. I'll double book them. So that is the biggest thing for me that I use. That's my hard boundary, is that you book yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, talk about taking a load off, waking up in the middle of the night. I've heard people like 2 a.m. Oh God, let me just check. Did I ever cancel that appointment or was it confirmed? Knowing that that's all happening in the background for sure alleviates any stress or worry around that. I have just one more question. In terms of other tools outside of GlossGenius, Kendall, you said infrared light. Cass, you have a couple other things that you do in salon before or after. Barbette, you sit down and make a prayer. I mean, there's lots of different tools and resources that we have. If you were to share some advice to someone who you could tell, maybe someone in your network or another professional in our GlossGenius community who you wanted to suggest one step to make that difference just a little bit easier for them, what would you suggest?
I would recommend just daily affirmations, not believe in them and be like, that's so silly. Who's going to look in the mirror, write them down and like set intentions for the day? But then I did it and I was like, oh my gosh, what a difference. So I really think something as simple as maybe going on Pinterest or just coming up with affirmations for yourself and just writing them down and making that part of like your morning ritual, or even looking at yourself in the mirror and telling them to you really sets the tone for your day. And it really does affect the way you view yourself. I feel like it just adds to your confidence. And I think when you do anything confidently, you're set. I mean, you can do things scared too, but I think when you do it confidently, it just helps make everything better. So I think that helps soothe ourselves. So that would be my piece of advice. I wish that I would have started doing those sooner. And again, I know you might feel silly, but you have to be uncomfortable to be comfortable. So
the risk is worth the reward, especially when you're alone and nobody's watching. You could do it privately. That's great advice. And for the record, I think a lot of us are receptive to that kind of feedback or advice, which is taking a second to make an intention, understanding the energy that you want, like Barbette said, when someone walks in the door, all the way through to the end of their client experience. And also, I'm sure that has a lot to do with the way that they close out their appointment and book their next one, right? You want to create an environment that they feel and they know that you're confident in what you're doing. I for sure have sat in a chair and been hesitant, and knowing that my pro was confident and together and could see the next several steps without me needing to. I think also a lot of us are go-getters and self-starters and constantly feel like we need to know the next 10 steps in order for things to work. I mean, maybe you agree, maybe you don't. Kendall, I know you have something to say about this.
Yeah, I think just like giving yourself space and time. So basically, there's so many things that you can do. Like, I mean, it's almost overwhelming, I think, if you don't have a practice. Like we kind of talked about it earlier. Like now you said a checklist. I think about it as like a toolbox, like I have like so many things that I can just like grab from and use now. Whatever it is that like you're drawn to that you want to try first, just focus on one thing first. Like even if it's like drinking a glass of water right when you get up in the morning before you do anything else. Just like one little thing at a time to start training yourself and retraining your thoughts to be more present and get used to doing like a ritual. So yeah, my thing is just being present. Like I feel myself drifting off all the time. I'm neurodivergent. So like, yeah, we're going in a million different directions. I'm thinking about 10 steps ahead and just bringing it back because clients can feel that energy. And also when I'm doing stuff for myself, for my business, or, you know, trying to meditate, whatever it is, just having that present awareness. And it's constantly like reevaluating it is the biggest thing.
Oh, I have one more thing, Dan. I just started doing this. But I love the affirmations, first of all. And I do have a lot of affirmations in my studio on the wall. And people do really read those, and they tend to take them to heart, and they pay attention, especially when you change them out. And especially when you give them a couple minutes by themselves in your studio just to kind of debrief. But the other thing I've been doing is I have a little a mini chalkboard. And on that chalkboard, I might write my specials. But what I have been doing is I will write, good morning, Amelia, or good morning, Sarah, good morning, Linda, whatever their name is. And it goes right there in front of the mirror, and I change it in every client. And so it feels like I have really been intentional for their visit. So I know they're coming in, I'm saying good morning to them, and their name, and you know, everybody wants their name on a board, even a little chalkboard. So that's been kind of
beautiful. Again, you can't pour from an empty cup. I'm sure that in order to do that one small step, Barbette, you had to feel secure in your own and do your before, steps, like Kendall said, looking into your toolbox. I actually imagine it to be a cart on wheels.
I'm dragging it.
You know what I mean? And dragging it, like you can call it a wheelbarrow.
500 pounds.
But I think that that's a great analogy or metaphor for, knowing the tools that we have and being a little overwhelmed with sometimes, what am I going to do? Sometimes lighting a candle isn't enough, or maybe it's just enough. But I think that that's fabulous advice. And what I'm seeing in the chat right now is Dana has just provided a tip that she's going to start doing, which is instead of making birthday reminders or birthday connections, it's going to give a coupon on the anniversary of their first visit. So what another creative way to use GlossGenius and knowing your clientele is understanding the data behind that and knowing when they come into your shop and having that connection with you. So great idea, Dana. Thank you for sharing that. I guess I want to do a little bit of a rapid fire questionnaire that I came up with last minute, but I want to see how this works because I think we can do it. In a word, what is your intention for your business?
helping.
Connection, intentional connection.
Integrity.
For me, it is, I feel like it's going to be taken out of context, but growth. I feel like not for me, but for clients, because every time they come in to see me, I can give them something that maybe they can take with them that'll help them grow as a person.
What is your favorite service to deliver?
I only do gel, so gel manicures.
Haircuts.
I think. Okay.
I'm a painter all day. Hair painter, yeah.
Cass, I want to just go back to what you said, because I think what is unique about your business, or at least what we see on our end, is that you're helping educate your clients outside of the salon as well. And I know Barbette and Kendall, you do this too, which I think is really special, is regardless of whether they're in your chair, they're staying up to date with ways that they can prevent breakage or prevent malnutrition with their body. And, our hair, skin, and nails, those are all organs. So across the board, you are all artists and professionals helping us serve our organs better. And I think there's something to be said around connection and humanity and intention and energy. It's all blended together. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, and the last question that I have of this questionnaire is, if you could name a nail polish or dye color in this case, what would you name it, and what color would it be? Stumped you.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna play with what I'm doing right now, and it would be like mod alien and be like a really groovy, like green with like gold shimmer, which is just not a thing in the hair world. So maybe it's a nail color, but like a really groovy 70s green and gold shimmer.
Following up with that, I was chartreuse color, so kind of like what I'm wearing, but a little bit more yellow. And I would just name it funk because I feel like it could be like a bad funk or like a good funky. So it could be whatever, and it'll be perfect for the occasion.
Oh gosh, I'm not really good at that, but I'm going to say connectivity because that is my superpower. Meaning because I've been in business so long and I know what everybody does. I know what all of my clients do. I can connect people pretty well and the outcome has been really good. So I'm just going to say connectivity and integrity connectivity. I don't know if that's a color.
They are now. For last parting words for our community, if you could give your younger self advice on how to maintain the best mental health practices, what would you give your advice?
Consistency. I would just ask myself to remain consistent and not get discouraged because I personally, I feel like consistency kind of goes into everything. You're not always going to have the motivation, but if you remain consistent and still do the work, you're still going to get results, even if you're not motivated for whatever reason that could have.
I would say if you need help, to ask for help from someone who you know, like, and trust. That's what I would tell my younger self.
I think forgiveness, just like to not be so hard on yourself and, others, but mostly yourself.
Amazing advice. I feel like every time I listen to each of you, my younger self is healed. I want to share 3 elements that I think we pulled out tonight as main takeaways. The first is talking it out and asking for help when you need it and understanding when that point is, who you're going to ask for help, whether it's a counselor, doing talk therapy. There are tons of free or very inexpensive ways to receive help. And especially since you're behind the chair, you're kind of delivering therapy on your own anyway, without a license. And I think it's really interesting how much you give. And once again, we're going to close with this. You can't pour from an empty cup. So making sure that you are filling your cup, even if it's hot, room temperature, or cold water, depending on what you need. Knowing when to ask for help and who to ask is really important. The second thing is making a mental health checklist or cart, like we were saying earlier, knowing the tools that you have, whether it's breathing exercises, having mindfulness checks, saving 15 minutes for yourself to, go to the back room or take a lap outside, breathe some fresh air, have a prayer, anything that works for you, and knowing what you need is honestly half the battle. It's just about getting there and knowing what's in your cart. And then the third thing, which we didn't really talk about because today was all about your own personal experience and how you kind of make that one foot right in front of the other. But the last thing is community and knowing who's in your corner, whether that's the GlossGenius Ambassador community here, where we interact with each other in this kind of space, like a round table, or on our Slack, where you're able to share, hey, I had a really crappy day. This happened to me. Does anyone have any advice, or can anyone relate? Just knowing that you're not alone is probably the hardest hurdle to get over. Would you agree? Just by like a nod of head. And I think one more element that exists and has existed for a long time are Facebook communities too. I am a part of a bunch of different groups like hairstylists supporting hairstylists or mental health. I think, Kendall, I know last year you participated in a Clubhouse conversation around mental health in the beauty and wellness industry. Cass and Barbette, I know that each of you respectively are advocates for mental health awareness, whether that's talking one-on-one with your clients or sharing this on social media. I think it's all about putting yourself out there, and the three of you are beacons of light and such amazing energy and help. And I know for me, as well as our entire GlossGenius community, we are so grateful for the leadership that you exhibit by knowing who you are, where you are, and where you want to go. And I'm really, really proud of the three of you. And I just want to say thank you for joining in tonight's conversation, because I think what we've touched on is really, really special and really important.
Sometimes we have our clients that come in, and maybe in a day, I typically only do 3 or 4 people a day, but maybe those 4 people have given me something so heavy that I just can't shake it, in the evening. And I'm thinking, why am I so heavy? Why am I so heavy? So I might go and clean my studio, and then I might take some moments for myself. I will put my foot in my foot massager. I'll turn the lights down, and I'll light a candle, and I'll just debrief and really try to release that. And so I want to encourage you to learn how to release that too, because sometimes we end up carrying it and don't know how to release it, forget to release it. And we wonder why sometimes we can get sick from all of the stuff that we're given and not letting it go.
Mm-hmm.
So just learn how to let it.
Were you going to say something, Cass?
I was going to say I agree with her. I feel like sometimes we don't realize that we take on others people's problems, and then we're just like, oh my God, my neck hurts, my back hurts, I'm exhausted. And you're like, what's going on? So I think it is very important to learn how to release it and just take time to yourself to recharge and let it go.
Cue Frozen soundtrack. Okay. Thank you, all three of you, for joining tonight. Thank you to everyone who's joined us on the call and who submitted questions and shared some affirmations. I think, honestly, what I'm curious about is to know what those affirmations are, but maybe you can post it in our Slack group so that we're staying in touch with that. Okay, thank you so much, GlossGenius community. I hope that everyone has a great evening, and please take care of yourself. It's not only this month in mental health awareness, but beyond as well. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.